This time of year, I think it's maybe difficult for some of the waiting. Maybe around very, very young children, some of the cruelest words are in a minute, in a while, not yet. There are certain, we're in that time. We're in that time of what we are singing as if the baby's with us now. But we know that it's in that not yet. And that's an okay period to be in because we have to prepare ourselves. And it follows the fact that choir's singing about soon, and the soon we will be celebrating officially Christmas Day. But this questions that we ask sometimes of God, even in our prayers, that's where we're saying yes, yes, and we're getting maybe. We're asking when, and we're getting a not yet. But there's still that period that we're in right now where there's hopefulness. And there's the possibility of joy because there hasn't been an outright no chance. We're in this place. When? Soon. And that will have to just be enough for right now. We're singing some Christmas carols. I'm not alone in that, I'm sure. I've been in the car when I'm driving on the road. I've listened to a bunch of different ones, and some I've really enjoyed, and some I just don't like at all because of language. But is it Stephen Curtis Chapman or Stephen Chapman Curtis, the Christian singer? I even listened to Brad Paisley, and he was just twanging his way through the Christmas carols. I turned that back into the library a while ago. But the one I have had, I'm so 90s. I still use CDs. So I'm not exactly sure how to get music and pay for it otherwise. Maybe I'm supposed to get it on my phone or something, but I'm not that modern yet. So I go and I purchase CDs. At least I'm not getting 8-track tapes, right? My car won't play that. But the one I have been enjoying so much is the one that Faith Hill put out several years ago, and it's called Joy to the World. And I enjoy Faith Hill, I enjoy country music, but I also enjoy some of the duets that she's done. But the one I really enjoy on this album called Joy to the World, and it starts with the rousing Joy to the World. So there's, waking up this morning driving in this kind of snowy way, it's like, Joy to the World! So you better be there. But the last cut, the last offering on that album that Faith Hill did years ago is called A Baby Changes Everything. A Baby Changes Everything. And it's such a cool song because it's a sweet song and it tells of this very story. This tells of this very same story that we have in our gospel text. So it's in song version of what Mary must have been thinking as a young girl, like a teenage girl, much too young. Maybe not in those days to have a baby of childbearing age because you'd be in old age by your 30s. When most young women these days maybe are starting their childbearing. In those days, as we've heard from study, that you're 15, 16, what are you waiting for? But Mary, we know, was waiting for her the official marriage to Joseph. So this is a man, as Faith Hill says, who she's never touched. He's a man she loves, but she's never touched him. And her fear is that he will lose trust in her, that he won't be able to trust her. Because even just, what a lovely song, but we're also going on the premise that it brings us some tension and trouble now, even in our times, when things aren't properly socially packaged so that a new baby is going to be cared for and a baby is going to be in a home or have at least one parent, hopefully two, and happy grandparents to welcome. But now we're also looking back at that culture when young women would have been stoned. They would have been harmed, put to death for dishonoring their family to arrive pregnant unmarried. So not a ring on her hand, but a man she loves who is willing to marry her. But this is willing to marry her, wondering what's going on, because the messages that they're getting in all faithfulness are coming from angels and from dreams, and they're trusting that this is God's plan for them as a family. But in this, Mary doesn't stay where she is in her own home. And don't you wonder what the backstory is? What were Mary's parents, her mom and dad, thinking at the time? They may have thought Joseph was a good man, and they're happy that the betrothal had happened. It was official. And then people would be happy, usually, that somebody would be fertile enough to have a child. But then, as now, we kind of like things to go in the sequence that we're accustomed to. And I'm not telling you anything new. And I don't think I'm telling I'm looking around, who hasn't been in high school health class? People can start ahead, and they do. People have. There have been plenty of times like this. But this is different, because this is God. This is God deciding for God's own reasons that Mary is the one who will be bearing God's self, Jesus the Christ. So Mary chosen, Joseph chosen. But how about the other family members too? The other family members that give Mary some support and give her some reason to think this is a possibility. This is of God. Because this angel messenger that comes to Mary, well, the messages have also been given to others of her ancestors before. And they go way back. They go way back to Abraham and Sarah. So in their old age, they were promised that there would be not the disgrace of barrenness, but fertility. And then Elizabeth, her own cousin, her own lineage, her own family lineage, that Elizabeth and Zechariah were chosen also to bear a child in their old age. So this is far more surprising and far more impossible, far more daunting and kind of awe-inspiring than a young girl, perfectly fertile in the proper childbearing age. But those others are not bearing the Son of God. Mary is. But it says that the child is coming soon. But first, we see this pattern? See the pattern in Luke? It's that the angels make an appearance, and in this literary style, we've seen it happen before. Those of you who do a lot of Bible study, we're going to be in the Old Testament. It happens there often. But there's an announcement. There's an announcement. There's an annunciation. There's a delivery of message. Well, we do that every day. We have church. But some of these announcements are profound and world-changing. So there's a reaction. And then after that reaction, the initial reaction, think of the human reaction. Think of your reactions. Think of your reactions to news that you've had that even isn't all that surprising, but it wasn't all that welcome. What has been your reaction? Show me a face, you all. Oh, yeah? You look pretty normal to me. How about the jaw-dropping? Yes, like that's it. Yeah, I've had neighbors. I've had neighbors who had kind of a pointy chin. I thought I was going to stab into the earth. It dropped so far. So you're allowed to have your reaction. That's the human condition. But also, then there's almost right away, there's some reassurance. Hold on, this will be okay. Hold on. And then this happens. The birth is announced. There's a newborn named. There's a future predicted. There's some objection raised, because after all, these messages are coming to human beings. And we rarely say we're on board immediately. We rarely say an immediate yes, even to God's own plans. There's an objection that's raised, and then it's somewhat overcome. There's a final assurance, and then there's a sign of some kind. And then the word is accepted. We'll get to that place. We will get to that place. When?
Soon.
I was going to say someday. But you're more hopeful. So I'm with you. That's just it. But this happens again and again in the pattern. And it happens in our lives too. It happens in our lives, and it's happening now here at Christmas when we've got things that we're anticipating. And things are happening around us, the things that are mundane and normal, but other things are happening too that have that divine impact on us. And we'll let that happen at this time. We'll let that happen because look at as Elizabeth and Zechariah, as they were given the announcement, as you look back, Zechariah didn't believe it, and then he didn't get to talk. I know my family, they love it. There are certain times of the year I get hoarse, I lose my voice. So it's not really contagious, it's not strep, it's anything. But it's like, especially when I had kids at the house, they seemed to love it. It was like an answer to prayer when Mama couldn't really talk. And so I'm whispering my orders all the time. I know, I mean it. I really mean it. And it's like, wow, what's the impact? But Zechariah, he questioned what the angel was saying. He was like, Elizabeth is way past her possibility, those, what do you know of science? But it's like, so he was like, struck mute. Ha ha. Happens to guys. And then that's part of the pattern too, because it happened with different times. We've seen this happen where people have not believed, and so they've lost their ability to see, or they've lost their ability even to do their objecting and interacting. But in Zechariah's case, because his situation was, this was the foretelling of Jesus' cousin. So this story where Mary learns that she's going to be bearing a child. She also learns that her cousin Elizabeth will be bearing a child. And so she wants to go and be with Elizabeth. That's what happens directly after this. So this is what some of the signs are for this, is that Mary doesn't stay where she is. She doesn't stay where she is, so we really don't know what was going on in her family, what her parents were thinking, what their thoughts about Joseph. We don't really hear very much about Joseph in this time. But we do hear about Elizabeth. When Mary has gone to Elizabeth, it's the plan that Elizabeth will have her child, an astounding birth, about 6 months ahead of Mary's child, Jesus. And that's the season we've been in, because John, who becomes a grown-up, remember I'm talking about it like he's kind of a pain, but he's not. He was the one who paved the way, leading folks to pay attention to what Jesus would bring in his public ministry. But as family members, like John in Elizabeth's womb, even just hearing Mary's voice, it said Elizabeth just proclaimed, like, this something is going on. The child in my womb just got all kinds of lively at hearing your voice. So there was that belief and faith and trust in Elizabeth that even in her old age, that disgrace of her barrenness completely erased. But she had a future that wouldn't be exactly as she planned either, just like Mary. But this time where Mary's staying with Elizabeth for a while to make preparations, helping Elizabeth, there are lots of gaps in the story, and I think some of the backstory would be interesting. I think it's because that's really the human condition of what helps us see where our part is in this great scheme of God, to bring God's self into the world to live with us and be with us through those times that give us maybe that loneliness or despair or frustration or even fear, even though we've been told time and time again in the Bible, do not be afraid. How does it go when that happens? I know with my kids, I know I'd always, you try to frame something in a positive. Try to frame something in a positive. So I'm trying to think, I did this with my children sometimes, so I wouldn't want to end with what I didn't want them to do. So it was like, don't hit. What's the last thing they hear is hit. Or I'd say to my middle child, wash your face, brush your teeth, get out the door. And what would he hear? Get out the door. And so even framing something in the positive, it's like, let's not be afraid, because there is so much more that's happening, and it's happening to Mary, and we witness it, and we support her in it, but it's happening to us also, because even though we're not pregnant, we're not childbearing, the stuff we're doing as church, the stuff you're doing as congregation, this is the bearing of Christ. This is the birthing of God. And so it can be for men and women, children, boys and girls, to take that assignment, to take that promise, and to live it out. It's possible to do. And Mary said yes to it. And Mary had things that she recalled from her upbringing, that there was faithfulness and promise and security with God that might not be in her own society, but in her reaction. It was not a huge debate. It wasn't a bunch of objections. It didn't have to be reframed. Gabriel didn't have to keep revisiting and talking her into it. She accepted and she understood, as did others before her, that nothing is impossible with God. And we can claim that promise. We've got to build on that too. Let that live in us as the time gets closer, as the time to really celebrate gets closer. Let's stay in that time. Let's let those days, those 12 days of Christmas, really seep into every part of our being, so that what it is that we do bear forth for God's sake is really recognizable as that what we're doing as church, what we're doing as individuals, to do that which Jesus always wanted us to do, is to take care, to love, to visit, to comfort, to heal up, to pray with, to be with, to the things that the everyday, even mundane things, to feed, to clothe, to comfort, to shelter. I'm on this road this morning, and I told Mark, I saw the sign. It's a lot clearer road than it had been when I was getting into Coeur d'Alene. So getting out of Coeur d'Alene, the sign said 95, and so that's how fast I went. Which is totally not true. I never go fast. What is that? Don't drive any faster than your angel can fly. But the sign I did see was, I think it was in I don't know, there's Lake Okalala and there's Algona. Am I saying that right? Algoma. Well, just as I like any of us, I suppose, but you think about Mary, the baby's coming soon. And I was like, okay, I'll be at the church soon. But I have bodily needs, and I'm not pregnant. And I look for okay, where would be an accommodating place for me to go into? It's like, I've gotten really good. I go into the library and act like I'm a patron all the time. I go into these gas stations, and I get $6 worth of gas, just because it's for customers only. But this one place I saw, and it's on that Sagal, Algoma area, there was everything there. There was a laundromat. There was a place to get a massage. I could get my hair done and my nails. Because we're in modern times. And as I sped past, I was thinking about this. This is not at all how our Savior arrived. This is not at all the kinds of accommodations that Mary had. And this is not at all really what we're aiming at. That this is like, look for the signs that God is with us, here with us already. Look for the signs that Christmas can be with us all year long, and that we can do something that makes it ever present for those folks who really don't celebrate this time of year, who have reason to be sad this time of year, and maybe for those folks who don't even know what this time of year could mean. that love of God, that love that is shining brightly and eternally, all of that is possible. It's not impossible because it's brought on by God. And then we'll do our part with our hands and our hearts and our voices and our shoulders and our arms as we embrace those who are hurting. Something is really going to change. It's going to change. It's going to start within us, and it's going to radiate out. And it won't be someday. It will be soon.